Alright, next step, I'm going to gonna make a nut to fit this, and I've got some nut, vintage bone nut blank here. I just measured, it's about 260 thousandths, and I've got to get down about 250 thousandths here. So basically what I'll do is I'll true up the bottom and just make sure it's square to the sides here, and then start taking it down on that granite sanding table that I've got until I get a decent fit here. So I'm going to go do that, just start sanding it down over on that table. Alright, I got the nut fit. It's a pretty nice tight fit here. Got it sanded down. And what I did is I measured the height of the fret. First fret, this is about 40 thousandths, 39, 40 thousandths. So I got a 40 thousandths feeler gauge, which would match the fret height. And then I'm going to add 30 thousandths to that. That's going to represent the bottom, the rough bottom of the nut nut slots. So I'll put these two here and just sketch a line here across here. Alright. And to that I'm going to add half the thickest string, which about, let's see, I think I'm going to have 54s on here. So I could use a 28 or a 26. I'll use the 28. Okay. So basically what that does, it just gives me a rough place to start making the nut. By doing that 30 thousandths above the height of the fret, that means in theory that the string at the first fret should be about 30 thousandths off that first fret. Usually we like it lower than that, so that gives us some area to work. And then by scribing the second line up on top, which I use the I think the 28 thousandths, that represents like the top of the nut. So what I'm going to do is sand it down to that top line. Alright, now I'm going to work this by hand a little bit. We want the radius to be the same as the fingerboard radius, which is 16 inch, so I've got my 16 inch sanding block here. I'll just make sure that radius is the same. Okay, I got it roughly just down to the top line, so I'm going to stop there. Now that I've got the nut rough to shape, before really I can do anything with it, I've got to mark where I want the strings to go. And the way I'm going to do that is put a string spacing guide up on here. But I can't use that until I know where both my E strings are going to go. So I want to put the E strings on. And in order to do that, we're going to have to put the bridge on and the tuners on. So I'm going to work on, I'm going to put the tuners on right now. Alright, the tuners are on. I think the next thing I'll do, we'll put the bridge back on here with these bridge screws that allow you to string up the guitar. Alright, I got the bridge on and tightened down. And now what I'm going to do, I've got a Martin replacement bridge here. And it's this will be a really easy installation. When I do the final setup on the guitar, I think I'll make my own saddle. But for now I'm going to use this one. This is intonated at the B string. And all I've got to do with this is we've got to get it just a little thinner so it'll fit this saddle slot. And I've got to cut it to the right length. So we'll just match up where the B string is going to go here. And I'll mark the length here. Okay, and I'm going to go cut this on the bandsaw. Alright, I've got this cut to just about the right length here. The first thing I'll do is thickness this and get it to at least fit the saddle slot, and then we'll put the rounded ends on here and get it down into the bridge. So I'll just work on sanding this down until I get it the right thickness here. Got a nice tight fit now in the bridge slot with the saddle. So now I'll round the ends because the saddle slot has got like a rounded end on it. So I'm just going to kind of work on that with these blocks here and just put a little radius on the end of these. Actually, I think I'm going to do on that table that I've got. It'll be a little bit easier. Alright, got the saddle fit. Okay, I'm going to put some strings on so we can find the position on the nut where we want to put the strings that are running along the border. And then we'll know where to put the slots on the nut. So anyway, the way I got to do is you can fish this string, comes right up, that bolt is hollow that holds the bridge on. There we go. That's the bass C, and I got the treble E here, and I'll do the same thing on the treble side. And I got the treble E string here, and I just put it through the tuners here. Not going to lock them or anything. Do the same thing with the bass here. First noise. what I'm going to do before I mark the nut and the position of the strings, the nut's pretty high even with that technique that I used with the feeler gauges. I'm definitely going to have to take quite a bit off, so probably I'm going to take the nut off and take some off the top before I start cutting the notches in there. But the action's also high, both at the 12th fret, both the high E and the low E are about 8/64 action, so that's pretty high. I'd like to get that down, probably take it down to like 6/64 on the bass side, and maybe 4 to 5/64 on the treble side. And then I may leave them there after it's all done, or I might even take them down a little bit more after the guitar is all together and the final setup. So right now I'm going to take down the saddle, and I'm going to take some off the nut here. I got the saddle off, and there's the two lines that I drew. I'm actually going to take those lines completely off, because as I say, it's got to come down quite a bit. Just to let you know, I'm making these adjustments. I measured the relief on the fretboard. It's perfectly flat right now, so we're making these adjustments with no relief. It's just a perfectly flat fingerboard. Even with a little bit of string tension that we've had, this guitar has been sitting about 2 nights. It hasn't pulled any relief into it. And so I'm going to do this first, and then we'll come back and we'll take the saddle out, and I'll shave down the bottom of the saddle. Alright, I put the nut back in. I got that sanded down a bit more so we won't have to be taking as much material off when we do the final fit here. And I've got the saddle out right now. Now, as I say, both of these were 8/64 above the 12th fret, and I want to bring this the bass E down to 6. So what we got to do is take off 2/64 here to do that, and we've got to double that back here. So that would be 2 30-seconds, a couple 30-seconds that I've got to bring that down, and it'll be a little bit more than that. Maybe I'll go like 2.5 30-seconds on this side. So I'll come up on the saddle. I'll make a mark 2 30-seconds up on the bass side, and just a little higher on the treble side, and connect those lines, and then sand that down. Right there's the line I put on the bottom of the saddle. I'm going to go down and sand that, go over that table, and the bass side I went a couple 30-seconds, and here I went 2.5 30-seconds. Alright, here I am back from the table. I just left it so you can just barely see the line. Let's take a measurement here at the 12th fret and see how that worked. Alright, on the bass side, here we are. It's exactly 6/64. And on the treble, we're just a little bit above the 4, so about 5/64. And it definitely came down on where the nut's at, but it's still on the high side, but we got to start putting the slots in. I'll take the camera off. I'll show you how high it is right now at the 1st fret here. Well, it's pretty obvious that we've got to put these strings where we're going to want them on the nut. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm just going to show you how high it is here at the 1st fret. Yeah, it gives you a good idea of the string height over the 1st fret. It was much higher before, so that's not bad, because I don't, once we get the grooves in the nut, it'll probably be a pretty good 1st fret action. And then if we go down here and look at the 12th fret, you can see that down there too, this section. Okay, I just ran upstairs, and I've got a Martin D28 upstairs. So I measured how far the string, the treble string, was in at the first fret. It was about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to set this one up the exact same way. Let's see. It's about right there. So what I'll do is I will put a mark on the nut here where the string, on both sides of the string here. Okay. See, now she slid over. And this one was like 1/8 of an inch and a little more, maybe another 32nd or so. So I will mark this one too. Alright, I don't know if you can see those marks on the camera, but I put a mark on either side of the string, and I'm just going to put a small notch in here just to hold the string. I got to make sure I hit it right in the center. Not deep, but just enough to hold the string. See, there we go. And that was a 12 thousandths. I'll just do the other side here, do it a little larger, 16 thousandths for the big string. There we go. Alright, this is how they look right now. As I say, this is about 1/8 of an inch from the edge at the first fret, and this is just a little over 1/8 of an inch. Like 1/8 and a 1/16. And then those were the marks I put on the nut, and then filed right between those marks. And that's going to help us space the rest of the strings. And you'll see here in a minute how we're going to do that. Alright, the way we're going to space the rest of these strings is with this string spacing rule that I've got. Got a bunch of marks all over the place and holes so that you can see the strings through here. And basically what you want to do, you want to just keep going back and forth till you get holes that line up perfectly, like that one. And make sure that these are, see, some of these holes are towards the front of the ruler and some are set back a little bit. You want to make sure that you're on a hole that they're both, for this one is both at the front. And then make sure that you got 6 strings. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can mark those right now. Careful, I'm going to hold this here. Whoop, that was a mistake. Let's get here. Okay. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm just going to go back, double check that, and make those line marks more prominent. Okay, I'm just starting the initial slots for the rest of the strings here. Now that I got all the notches on here, I'm going to loosen the strings again, take the nut out, and I'm going to go over the other vise and take some files and put a rounded front on the nut. I'm not, however, going to cut the excess length off yet, because with that, if I cut it off, then we can't slide the nut in or out. We won't have any adjustment, and if I leave it a little long right now, at least we can knock it back and forth and make sure we get it back in the position that we want it. Alright, I get the nut in a little vise. This part towards me is facing the fretboard, so this is, we want to round this is going to be the front of the nut here. So basically work it and just put a little, let's round it up a little bit. This is good enough for now. I got the front curved. Let's see if you can, there you go, can you? That was from working it with the files and that sanding stick. So it's got a pretty nice shape right now. This is the part that's going to go towards the fingerboard, so I left that alone flat. Alright, I want to get the rest of the strings on right now and then put that nut on. So we're going to have to ream this out because this won't even go in right now. Alright, I'm going to start filing these nut slots here with the proper radius for the string. This string's, I think this is a 54. It's actually a 53, but I'm going to use the, just a little bigger. I'm going to go 60 file. Okay, here's a B string, which is 16, and I've got the 16 file. So basically I kind of shoot at where the string's going to be meeting the tuner peg, and I take an angle that's between the headstock and horizontal here. I don't go at the headstock angle and I don't go flat. I kind of go between the two. Alright, it's getting exciting. We're getting close here. Just got to do the A string here. Alright, we got all the strings on here. We're going to tune it. I'm going to tune it a half step under standard. So there's E flat. Alright, here's a moment of truth. That's the first E chord. Wow. Boy, that sounds good. Wow, this thing really, this is powerful. What I should do is go and take these ends off the nut, but I want to play around with it a little bit more. Then we'll go down, and I can tell the E string's definitely got to come down some. Right now it's kind of high off the nut, but overall sound of this thing is fantastic. I think the intonation is going to be pretty good here. Strings are going out, and plus we only have the bridge on with the bolts, so the bridge is going to be shifting a little bit. But I'm going to play around a little bit with this, then I'm going to take the nut down, and we'll come back. I'll do some more clips. I think what I'm going to do, I have an H4 recorder upstairs, so I'm going to make some sound clips with that. And I think that'll wrap up this series. I'm gonna it's still got to be finished, so I think what I'll do is I'll call that a Guitar from My Brother Part 2 finishing. But we got one more video after I cut the nut, and as I said, we'll just play it a little bit more, and we'll find out how the intonation's going on up the neck. I'll just make the setup a little better. It's a little high, as I say, on this E string up here. It's so high it's like running into my fingers here. Whoop. See? Yeah, I'll be playing around with this a lot. Alright, that was fun. Sounds fantastic. I'm just going to roughen this nut a little bit better, make it easier to play chords down around the first position, because the nut is you know, sticking out, so it's grabbing your hand. So all I'll do is just trace where I've got to cut it here, and then we'll take it over and cut this excess off and just sand it kind of nice. Again, I won't completely finish it because I'm going to polish it, and we'll do a final fitting once the guitar is finished and the neck is glued on. Alright, here's the nut out of the guitar, and here's the marks that I made. So I'm going to go over to the bandsaw and just get it close to there, and then I'll sand it and just smooth those in a bit. I cut the ends off the nut, not all the, not right to the line. I'm going to sand them. I think what I'll use is, I got like these little cylinders from my spindle sander, and I'll use those to kind of rough them in here. But first I just want to make sure that I got the nut in the right position. It looks pretty good. So I'm just going to work at smoothing this in right now. This one's pretty close. This is almost to the end here, so I want to blend this in, and then I'll cut these nut slots, the strings that were higher, like this, the treble E string. We'll cut those down after I get this blended in a little bit better here. And again, I'm just going to do it with these things here. I'll just work on doing that. And this is I think 80 grit paper. It's pretty aggressive, so that'll take it down quick. And then I'll get some fine paper and just blend it in. Alright, I sanded down the nut and kind of blended it in to the neck here. It's a lot more comfortable now. And then I filed the strings a little bit lower. I kind of went like 30 thousandths on the C. I think I got about 25 thousandths, 25 thousandths, 20 thousandths, 15, and I got about 12 thousandths on the E. They get progressively lower, and it's a lot more comfortable to play now. are new strings too, so they want to stretch. Try a little finger picking here. Boy, it plays nice finger picking too. Right now the neck is still completely straight. It's got very little relief, and I'm surprised that we're not getting any buzzing on the frets, because I really haven't dressed them at all. So they must be in pretty decent shape as far as being level with one another. And I really love the tone of this thing. Even finger picking is very comfortable. The neck, I like the neck. The neck is actually a little on the chunky side. Feels good though. I do like the way the neck feels. You just got to tune it every once in a while with the new strings here, but it sounds phenomenal. So it's even playing bar chords. Plays the bar chords pretty well up there. It's very comfortable to play, and as I say, the intonation must be right on, because the open chords sound good, as do the bar chords. So the most important thing, I was worried about getting the neck set correct, and it's not. Again, we don't have the neck mounted permanently yet, but even in this condition, it's a very nice angle on it. So we're not getting any buzzing over the tongue. Boy, it's amazing. Well, I'm really proud of it. I think my brother's going to love it. And now the hardest thing to do is going to be taking all these strings back off and starting the finishing process, because I'm going to do that French polish on here. And even after it's done with the French polish, you're supposed to let it cure at least 20 days and just make sure that that shellac hardens. So that's why I'm going to just complete the series here, and then we'll start another series with the finish. I will do one with a little bit better sound clips, and I'll post that one next. But hey, it was quite a journey. Took a long time, but the rewards were well worth it. I think he's going to love this thing.